Welcome to Love Thy Lawyer, where we talk with attorneys about their lives and careers. I'm Louis Goodman. Today, we welcome Diego Ortiz to the podcast. Diego can date the legal history of his family to 1600 AD in Spain. His 10th great-grandfather was a practicing lawyer at that time. More recently, I saw Diego in the Dublin courthouse, right here in Alameda County. But what most impresses me about Diego is his surfing career in both California and Hawaii. Diego Ortiz, welcome to Love Thy Lawyer.
Good to speak with you, Lou.
Nice talking to you, Diego. Where are you speaking to us from right now?
Currently, Walnut Creek, California.
Is that where you live, or is that where your office is, or both?
The office is in Oakland, but I live in Walnut Creek and part-time in Hawaii.
Where's your office in Oakland?
On Clay Street.
And when you live part-time in Hawaii, where's that?
Waikiki.
Nice. And you're there primarily to go surfing?
That is that to relax.
Well, we're going to get to that. Where are you from originally?
Originally, New Jersey.
Really? Whereabouts?
Yeah. Teaneck, Bergen County.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I'm from Essex County, so we got the Jersey boys handshake going there.
Yeah, we do.
I set it up a little bit in the introduction, but can you tell us a little bit about what sort of practice you have?
Okay. Currently, it's general criminal practice. I'm just focused on criminal law, misdemeanors, felonies, federal and state.
And how long you've been doing that?
Well, I've been practicing law for, looks like now around 33 years, since 1991, and criminal since about 1993.
Now, you say you grew up in New Jersey. Did you go to high school in Teaneck?
I sure did.
Now, how was that experience for you? What were you like in high school?
Oh, I had a hood on my head and I ran a lot.
Now, when you graduated from Teaneck, where'd you go to college?
I went to Sac State for a year and then I transferred up to Chico State.
What was it that prompted you to come to California all the way from New Jersey?
Well, it's basically, you can get it from the New Jersey State song, which is Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. But New Jersey wasn't a place for me. I didn't feel comfortable in it all that much growing, being 18 years old. And so my friend said, let's go to California. And so off we went.
Well, New Jersey is a great place to be from.
Yes.
What did you think about living in California compared to living on the East Coast?
Completely different. The weather was fantastic. The people were really nice, but the food was horrible.
You didn't like the food in Sacramento?
Oh, no. So I started off, I first got here in May 31st, 1980. And I was living up in South Lake Tahoe with my cousin, who was 9 years older than I was. And so I got a job up there. And I remember one time we went to get some pizza and the pizza came back and it had all kinds of vegetables on it, having a heavy New Jersey accent at the time. And you can well imagine that I was perplexed, to say the least, as to what they had done. In Italian, it would be the insomnia of how they were treating pizza. And so I threw a fit and then realized that the food here wasn't so good, but the people were nice.
Well, it's certainly gotten better in 40 years, don't you think?
It has. It has. You had your cured salted meats are more available. The cheeses are a lot better. Italian food still isn't as good as any mom and pop shop in any place in Essex or Bergen County, but it's gotten better.
Now, when you graduated from college, where did you go to law school?
Formerly known as Golden Gate University School of Law.
Did you go directly from college to Golden Gate, or did you take some time off in between?
I took some time off in between.
What did you do?
Well, I went back to New Jersey, which somewhat of a mistake, I guess, but not. So I graduated college and I was up in Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe, working there. I was trying my hand at doing underwater scuba construction. We were repairing stuff that was underwater, obviously. And then that was during the day. And during the evenings, I was trying to make my mark as a professional gambler. And that didn't work out, as most professional gamblers never work out. And so I went back to New Jersey, ended up getting a job at my mom's law office. I was there for a year, working there in her office in Hackensack, New Jersey. and then decided that I had to get out of there because it was driving me crazy. So I went back with a friend and was down in Los Angeles and living in Redondo Beach and working part-time as an extra in the television and movie industry.
When was it that you first started thinking about being a lawyer?
Probably at the age 13. My mom had gone back to law school. She was a graduate of Syracuse University, class of 52. In that era, the only thing you could get was secretarial jobs. And so she ended up working as a secretary eventually. And then she went back to law school. So that inspired me. She's a graduate of Seton Hall out of Newark. And I was completely inspired by her.
And when did you decide for yourself that now's the time to apply to law school, that I'm really going to do this? I'm going to send in an application, send in the money, write the essay, take the SAT.
Yeah, that's a funny story, Lou. I had gone back. I was working in my mom's law office. I'd been scuba diving. I took a scuba diving class. I was open water and advanced scuba diver. And my friend had given me the lessons, said I should go in and I should be a scuba instructor. And so I looked up, there's job opportunities on all the different resorts around the world. I was in New Jersey and I called my friend who was John Cart, who was in law school at the time at the University of Santa Clara Law School down in San Jose. And I said, John, I'm talking on the phone because he was a great friend from undergrad. And I said, John, we got this great job. We can go to Club Med. We can be scuba diver instructors. It's going to be the best life ever. And he was a smoker and you could hear it on the phone. This is the funny part. You can hear him, he takes a drag on a cigarette. And he says, Dude, you're an idiot. You got to go to law school, go take the LSAT. So I contemplated that phone conversation, and I decided at that point, to go to law school.
Well, what did you think about being back in San Francisco and being at Golden Gate?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I had never been in San Francisco before other than on a couple of road trips. I could park my car, forget about my car, and just commute, ride my bicycle and skateboard. And I'd take the cable car every morning down to Golden Gate because I lived up on Russian Hill, and then go down there, go to law school, study, come back, grab a slice of Blondie's pizza there, the turnaround on Powell and market, and go back, crash out, and repeat and rinse.
Were you okay with the Blondie's pizza?
Yeah, it was not bad. As far as pizza goes in California, it was more like it was more like a Sicilian pizza. And it was a big, big slice, and I was skinny as a twig, and going to law school, and the brain needed all the carbs you could get. And so, yeah, it wasn't bad.
Well, I'm glad you made your peace with the pizza industry in California.
Oh, no, I have not. I am still a huge critic of pizza. And so my girlfriend turns around, she says, "Oh, this is a great pizza." I said, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. You're out of your mind. Forget about it."
What was your first legal job out of law school?
Out of law school? Well, my first legal job out of law school, waiting for the bar results, was working for an attorney called James Castelli. And I was researching and writing appellate briefs and pretrial briefs for his suppression motions, pitches motions, speedy trial motions, that sort of thing.
Now, you have your own practice now, very successful criminal defense practice. Can you give a brief history of your career that gets you to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I did not study to be a trial lawyer or litigator. I studied to be a transactional attorney. I suffered from, and on occasion do suffer from, a speech impediment, and I'm dyslexic. And so I could take my time with transactional work where I could read it, reread it, analyze it. And so in law school, none of my focus was ever towards trial advocacy or anything to that extent. It was more, like I said, UCC stuff and transactional contracts and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, in my first year of law school in 1987, I think there was Black October, where the stock market crashed and all the jobs that were available at the time for first years were gone. And in fact, there was no jobs for second years or third years, and they were just hiring laterals from other law firms. And people were basically jumping off the cliff trying to catch any kind of job there was. So the job market kind of dried up, and I found myself with the only opportunity was civil litigation. So I ended up throwing my hat into the civil litigation arena quite successfully. And I did enjoy it for a few years. And then the constant bickering, I guess, between my colleagues and myself, and it was not as much fun as I wanted it to be. So I wanted to get into court more often than just a case management conference or a motion to compel or a summary judgment motion. And as you know, civil trial attorneys don't go out to trial very often compared to criminal defense attorneys. And so I threw my hat into the criminal arena. And at the time, my wife at the time, my ex-wife now, she was a assistant district attorney in Contra Costa County. So she helped me out with that. And then I joined a panel and started practicing criminal law.
You've been a lawyer for quite some time now.
Yeah.
You have lots of interests, lots of other things that you've done and that you potentially could do. What is it about practicing law that keeps you in the profession?
I love the people. I love my clients. And you would think that's something you wouldn't, especially in the criminal arena. But I do. I enjoy my clients. I enjoy helping my clients. I enjoy my colleagues, both in the private and public sector, and I enjoy the bench. And it is a wonderful time for me. It's just completely envelops me.
If a young person were coming out of college thinking about a career, would you recommend the law?
Yeah, absolutely. What I would recommend, I was just lecturing up at Sonoma State to some criminal justice majors, and I would recommend at least taking 1 year of law school. Everybody in the world should take 1 year of law school. It changes. I believe it opens your mind into a more logical way of dealing with the world and what the world presents and what life presents. And if everyone just took 1 year of law school, I think we'd all get along a lot better.
How about the business of practicing law? You know, those of us who don't work for the government, don't work for a big company, and we have a law practice, we have to be, whether we like it or not, we have to be business people. And I'm wondering how the business aspect of law has gone for you and kind of what your observations about that are.
It's tough sledding. If you're coming out on your own, it's tough sledding. You have to develop a book of business. And you got to, what's known as make it rain. You've got to be able to go out, interact with potential clients. First of all, you got to find potential clients. And then when you interact with them, you've got to be able to help them. And then you've got to be able to draw them in from a business perspective. And that is not as easy as it sounds. That is the challenge. The law is not. For me, business, I think, is the harder aspect of running your own shop. But some people don't have the knack for it, actually. A lot of people don't. And they end up working in law firms and having long careers as associates and junior partners. But they never get into the partnership position because they can't develop business. And so that is the hardest part of the practice, is actually developing the business and then satisfying the business is the easy part.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just malpractice on the part of law schools that's just not addressed.
Oh, absolutely. They should teach you a whole vein. There should be a whole semester, if not a whole summer internship, on how to develop your business and how to develop a practice. It's, I was fortunate that I speak 2 languages. Coming into the criminal practice, there was a niche and an area for me to fill where there's, one person speaking Spanish was the only person that was myself. And so I could interact with other people, and then the word spread, and then the people are calling you, and the word of mouth spreads even further. And that's how it developed.
Where did you learn your Spanish?
Well, that's a funny story, Lou. My grandparents, my parents are both Bolivian. We're both Bolivian. And my mom's family comes from Spain and from New York State, Copake, New York, to be exact. And they'd been around for a few hundred centuries. But my father's side of the family is from Spain through Bolivia. And so he came here when he was 21 to the United States, and he wanted to be a good American citizen. So he signed up, became a citizen, and never spoke in Spanish to him. Neither of my parents did, but my grandparents did. all the time. So they would come up to visit on a regular basis from Bolivia. And so I'd have to interact with them. And so I learned it that way. It was a rudimentary learning of it. And then in college, I majored in it because I thought it was like the old Cheech and Chong saying, go to night school, take Spanish, get a B kind of thing. And I thought it was easy, and it was not easy. It's a very, very difficult language to learn and to speak and to read and to write. But thankfully, thanks to a professor named Steve Rebus, who's no longer with us up at Chico State. He took me under his wing. He was able to guide me through. And I did not, with the caveat, complete the major. I had 2 other majors instead, and I just couldn't get the classes in without spending another full year there. That was not something I wanted to do. So that's how I learned it. And then along the way, to practice the law, you need to speak with your clients, and they teach you as well.
Here's a 2-part question. You could answer one part or both parts. What's the best advice you've ever received? And what advice would you give to a young attorney just starting out?
The best advice I ever received was probably to listen more, talk less, especially when you're younger and just coming into the system. The second best advice I would give to a young attorney is show up to court early, always be on time, and sit there and don't have your case called first, but listen and to how the judge operates his court and how he interacts with the different litigants. And if you spend enough time just sit there listening, you get a pulse of the court, and you're able to understand that particular judge and the nuances of his department. And I think if you do that in all the different departments, it doesn't matter if you're doing civil litigation or criminal litigation, so if you do that in court, you'll get a better handle and better represent your client. Now this B section to that is if you're not a litigant, or you're not a trial attorney, is listen to what your clients have to say and then do the best you can there. But listen more, talk less.
What mistakes do you think lawyers make? You're in court a lot. You see lawyers. What sort of mistakes do you think lawyers make?
Listen to what the judge is asking them. The judge and the bench asks specific questions, and people go off in different directions, and they're not succinct in their advocacy.
Do you think the legal system is fair?
As fair as humanly possible, yes. Obviously, you try to be objective as possible. I think everybody is trying to be objective as possible, but they're swayed by their subjective feelings and previous encounters and opinions. For a neutral, objective body of society, it is as fair. It could be fairer, and it could be a lot less fair. But in the arenas that we practice in, and especially in Alameda County, I think it's pretty fair.
I'm going to shift gears here a little bit, Diego. What's your family and personal life been like, and how has that fit into your practice of law, and the practice of law fit into your life?
Well, I went to law school and married my law school sweetheart, who's a practicing attorney with us here in Alameda County. We're married successfully for 20 years. And then, of course, life has a way of getting in the way of practicing law, kind of a twist on the John Lennon quote. But it's been good for the most part. Having a partner who was in the same field was good to go through the throes of learning how to practice and how to build a business. My kids grew up with the law all around them. My son is currently studying and planning on a legal career. My daughter has also thought about it, though I steer her towards medicine more than legal, if possible, that hopefully she go to med school instead of law school. But all in all, it's not been a negative impact on my family or my life in any way. It's been a blessing, and I'm very thankful for having been able to be accepted to law school, graduating from law school, pass the bar on the first time, and been accepted to the bar, and I've never regretted any moment of it.
I know that you surf, and I mean, it really is a big part of your life. And as someone who is himself very interested in water sports and has been for a very long time. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about when you developed the love of surfing, how that perhaps takes your mind off of the law.
Yeah. Well, it's a short story, but I first tried surfing back in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. That's called the Jersey Shore area. My friend and I was staying at my friend's house down there, and we were 17, 18, and he had this wall hanger, this big, huge wooden surfboard that was like 15 feet long, hanging over his mantle, as I recall, in the middle of the living room. And we said, "Oh, let's go surfing. Let's try this out." So we go. We carry. It takes both of us to carry this heavy, 100-pound board. It shouldn't have been a 100-pound board. It was just something you hang on the wall. But we decided to try and surf it. And so we get down to the beach, and none of us have the ability or the knowledge as to how to surf. So he says, "You go first," and which is kind of typical of me. I always say, "Yeah, sure, I'll go first." And so I get on the board, and the beach break, it was a beach break, and the beach break drove the front of the board right into the sand. And I went sliding down the board up the shale from the shells and so forth onto the beach. And I'm just covered in sand. And my friend's mom is sitting there laughing at me. And then she looks down, and half of my skin from my right pectoral had been torn off in the sand. And I'm sitting there looking at it and just screaming, going, "Oh, I've lost my nipple." And so she's laughing the whole way, and she goes to the lifeguard station, she puts a Band-Aid on it, and it's still there. It's still scarred, but that was my first introduction into surfing. And when I decided to go to California, I thought everybody surfed, and I thought everybody played volleyball on the beach, and everybody was blonde, and that was not so. And so I put away my thoughts of surfing until about 2008. My neighbor across the street from where I was living at the time invited me to go, and we went out to Pacifica. I paddled out, and I caught the wave, and I got up onto my knees, and it just overtook me with joy. I went out the following day, bought a proper wetsuit, and I went out the following week and got aboard, and I haven't stopped since.
Let's say you came into some real money, let's say $3 or $4 billion. What, if anything, would you do differently in your life?
Well, I'd throw a big party for myself and just include myself and not anybody else. Probably I would continue to practice law and not charge a dime, contribute my money to worthwhile charities. I thought about it, you get, when the lottery goes up to $1 billion or something like that, I always buy the tickets because I say, I can spend $20 on tickets and I can dream. And I love the dream that the lottery provides, even though it doesn't provide any return. And I always think, it would be great. I could walk into a bar or see a homeless person, out there and just go, "Here you go, bro. Here's some money. Let me get you some clothes, and let me buy you a house," sort of thing. So that's kind of it. If it was a bartender, leave them $1 million tip. Just blow their minds, that kind of thing.
Have you ever had a near-death experience?
Yeah, several. Mostly surfing, a few times in automobiles. But the ones in surfing I remember because spinning up, almost drowning, and getting caught in riptides without any flotation devices. It's been dicey at times. And Lou, I was always the guy, growing up that, as kids, they'd say, "All right, let's go try this." And they'd say, "Who wants to go first?" And I always raised my hand or I'd go first. And generally I ended up in the hospital on those occasions. Broken bones. I've broken most everything in my body. Drowned a few times. I've saved 12 people from drowning over the years. Life could be tenuous at best.
Have any of those experiences changed the way that you've done things or thought about things or had any kind of profound impact on your thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. One, I don't take myself very seriously. I think it's impacted that. Two, we should all not take ourselves too seriously, and we should enjoy the bounty of what nature provides for us. I mean, I'm looking out a window right now, looking at a beautiful tree. That's as perfect as life can get sometimes. And I think if we all just lightened up a little bit and enjoyed what nature provides, you enjoy your life more.
let's say you had a really big microphone, let's say 60 seconds on the Super Bowl ad. What would you like to say to the world in that kind of forum where you could talk to that many people at once?
Yeah, that's easy. Love each other. Stop hating each other. Just love each other.
Diego, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
Well, you can ask anybody. They all know my name and my number. But for those who don't, I do have a website. It is Diego E. Ortiz. That's Diego, the letter E for my middle name, and Ortiz, ORTIZ.com. Or you just look up Diego Ortiz or Diego E. Ortiz, attorney, and you'll find it comes up with a picture, and just call me up. I'm always available. I take calls through the days and nights. I was just on the call last night at 11 o'clock with some worried person who got himself into trouble and needed some advice. But that's the easiest way of getting a hold of me.
Great. Diego E. Ortiz.com. All right. Diego Ortiz, thank you so much for joining me today on the Love Thy Lawyer podcast. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise.
That's it for today's episode of Love Thy Lawyer. If you enjoyed listening, please share it with a friend and follow the podcast. If you have comments or suggestions, send me an email. Take a look at our website at lovethylawyer.com, where you can find all of our episodes, transcripts, photographs, and information. Thanks to my guests, and to Joel Katz for music, Brian Matheson for technical support, Paul Roberts for social media, and Tracy Harvey. I'm Louis Goodman. I lost you completely there for a couple of minutes.
Oh, yeah. God, I don't know
what happened.
I don't know. But you want to repeat the question?
Yes. I'm trying to remember what it was.
I don't know. That's a tough question.